The 14th of June 2026, the Sunday galactic star morning, a brief reading from the Common Buddhist Text, Guidance and Insight from the Buddha. Chief editor of this compilation is Dr. Dhamma Maha Dhammakosajan. We left off on chapter 9 from the perspective of the Theravada tradition on wisdom, as we pick up on dependent arising and how suffering originates. In passage on tanha, craving, it is described as the factor which originates the painful aspects of life. Tanha is the negative aspect of desire. And it's not just any kind of desire, but a demanding kind of desire. On the other hand, the positive kind of desire is chanta. The desire to do can have wholesome forms, which are part of the Buddhist path. How does craving lead to life's pains? Dukkha. The most obvious way is that it leads to frustration due to the union with the dislike, separation from the like, not getting what one wants. The stronger one craves for things to be, or not to be, or a certain way, the more painful frustration arises when things are not as one demands. And the more things one craves for, the more frustration one will have. Even when one gets what one wants, things in time change. Or one doesn't, one oneself changes and gets bored with what one has. Craving also drives one into situation which brings danger or anxieties and also leads to quarrels. Tanha, craving for being something, may be in the form of craving to develop a certain kind of identity, to be someone. Bhava tanha. Such as craving for celebrity or power, but at a deeper level of craving for further personal existence after death. Hopefully, in an external form, like other forms of craving, this is seen as the cause of other rebirth. Samsara vata. Whose nature is determined by one's state of action, called kama. And hence all pains that this will bring, craving for something's non-existence, vipava tanha, may be either craving for the unpleasant experience or the situation to end, or the suicidal urge to end one's existence. But just as this feels another rebirth, or another kind of rebirth, in which things may be worse than at the present, a fuller analysis on how what is painful originate is given in a central teaching of Gautama Buddha. That is on dependent origination, paticca samuppada, dependent arising, but also translated as conditioned co-arising. Gaining insight into this is a key role for Panya, wisdom. It explains how things can only exist due to supporting conditions that flow together to give rise to them and to cease when these conditions cease. It can be seen as the principle of causality, of cause and effect, the law of karma, or rather, conditionality as applied not only to the physical things but also mental ones, to the working of karma and the process of rebirth and its pains, and the process of spiritual development. The standard vision or version of dependent arising as series of 12s, nidasnas, or conditioned links, culminating in what is dukkha, painful. Ignorance, volitional activities, consciousness, mind and body, the six sense bases, the five physical sense plus the mind, sensory contact, feeling, craving, grasping, a way of being, birth, aging and death, and the whole painful bundle of experiences. This sequence may be explained either from link 1 through 12, or the explanation may start from 12 and then specify 11 as critical condition and on back to 1. After the formula is given in either versions of this forward arising, anuloma mode, it follows in reverse, cessation, patiloma mode. In this form, it describes how the cessation of the painful comes about due to the complete cessation of spiritual ignorance and the consequence in cessation of each following link. The abstract principle of dependent arising or co-arising or dependent origination. This expressed the basic principle of conditionality, of one thing as necessary condition for another, cause and effect, without which it ceases. For example, craving depends on feeling. Though as an Arihat has feeling but lacks craving, it is clear that feeling will only lead to craving, which ignorance also exists. This is cited in the Visuddhi Magga, the path to purification. That being, this comes to be. From that arising of that, this arises. That being absent, this is not. From the cessation of that, this ceases. This is cited from the Dasapala Sutra Samyutta Nikaya, Volume 2, 28. The Buddha on causality. This verse, which come to be inscribed on many monuments, praise the Buddha as the teacher of this doctrine. Of those states that proceed from a cause, the Tathagata has told the cause. And that which is their cessation, the great renunciant has such a teaching. This is cited from the Mahavagga, Volume 1, Vinaya 140. Dependent arising and the Four Noble Truths of the Noble Ones. The first passage explains that the arising aspect of the dependent arising is equivalent to the second truth of the Noble Ones, that which originates the painful, dukkha, while the cessation aspect is equivalent to the third truth of the Noble Ones, the nirodha, the cessation of the painful. The second passage applies the pattern of the Four Noble Truths, its origin, its cessation, the way to this, and to each of the conditioning links other than the first. And what bhikkhu, monks, is the truth that the origin of the painful, from avijja, ignorance, as conditions, or volitional activities. From volitional activities as condition is consciousness. From consciousness as condition is mind and body, the sentient being, body. From mind and body as conditions are the six sense bases. From the sixth sense basis as condition is sensory contact. From sensory contact as condition is feeling. And from feeling as condition is craving. From craving as condition is grasping. From grasping as condition is the way of being. From a way of being as condition is birth. From birth as condition is old age and dying, grief, lamentation, physical pain, unhappiness, and distress come into being. Such is the origin of the whole bundle of suffering. And what, Bhikkhu, monks, is the truth that the cessation of the painful, from the fading away without remainder of ignorance, is the cessation of volitional activities. From the cessation of volitional activities is the cessation of consciousness, until we come to, from the cessation of birth, old age, dying, grief, lamentation, physical pain, unhappiness, and distress ceases. Such is the cessation of this whole bundle of suffering. This is cited in the Titiyatana Sutra, Anguttara Nikaya, Volume 1, 177. From the arriving of ignorance is the arising of volitional activities. From the cessation of ignorance is the cessation of volitional activities. This Noble Eightfold Path is itself the way leading to the cessation of the volitional activities. From the arising of volitional activities is the arising of consciousness. From the cessation of volitional activities is the cessation of consciousness. This verse is cited in the Pachaya Sutra, Samyutta Nikaya, Volume 2, 43. The explanation on the links of dependent arising. This passage explains some of the links. And what Bhikkhu monks is upatana, grasping. There are 4 kinds of upatana, grasping. Grasping as sensual pleasure, grasping at views, grasping at rules, at vows, grasping at a doctrine of the self. This is called upatana, grasping. And what Bhikkhu monks is the mind and body, literally name and form, feeling, perception, volitional or volition, contact, and attention. This is called mind. The 4 elements, great as they be, the form derived from them, that is called body. Thus this mind and this body are together, called mind and body. Nama Rupa. And what monks is consciousness? There are these 6 kinds of consciousness. Eye conscious awareness. Ear consciousness awareness. Nose consciousness awareness. Tongue consciousness awareness. Body consciousness awareness. Mind consciousness awareness. This is called conscious awareness. And what Bhikkhu monks are volitional activities? There are these 3 kinds of volitional activities: bodily, verbal, and mental volitional activities. They are called the volitional activities. And what monks is ignorance, not truly knowing the painful, not truly knowing the origin or origination of the painful, not truly knowing the cessation of the painful, not truly knowing the way going to the cessation of the painful. This is called ignorance. Vibhaga Sutra Samyutta Nikaya, Volume 2, 3-4. What feeds ignorance? This passage explains that ignorance is self conditioned by the 5 hindrances: desire for sensual pleasure, ill will, dullness, lethargy, laziness, restlessness, worry, vacillation, and these by misconduct of the body, speech, and mind, as the latter are unwholesome forms of volitional activities. These can be seen to feed back and nurture ignorance, as lack is direct insight, which is the background conditions for both bad actions and the good actions of those who have not yet attained awakening. Notable among the factors feeding bad conduct is unwise attention. Attention to surface impressions or to surface impressions. This is the opposite of wise attention, probing attention that looks below the superficial appearance of things and seeks to understand the deeper aspect and causes of things. Binku, monks. This is said, at first point of ignorance is not seen, such that before then there was no ignorance, and afterwards it came into being. Nevertheless, ignorance has a specific condition. I say, Binku, monks, that ignorance has a nutriment. The five hindrances also have a nutriment. The three kinds of misconduct by body, speech, and mind. The three kinds of misconduct also have a nutriment. Not guarding of the sense faculties. Non-guarding of the sense faculties also has a nutriment. Lack of mindfulness and clear comprehension. Lack of mindfulness and clear comprehension also has a nutriment. Unwise attention. Unwise attention also has a nutriment. Lack of faith. Lack of faith also has a nutriment. Not hearing the good Dhamma. Not hearing the good Dhamma also has a nutriment. Not associating with good and wise persons. This is cited from the Avijja Sutra, Anguttara Nikaya, Volume 5, 113. Consciousness helps spark off and sustains a new life. In this passage above, it is clear that mind and body stands for psychophysical organism, roughly equivalent to the first four in the five categories of existence. The body and the mental qualities that bring sentience, the sentient body. The passage below shows that consciousness is a key condition for this by facilitating its own origin and development in the womb. By the inflow of the stream of consciousness from the previous rebirth and continuing to help enliven its life. If consciousness, vijnana, were not to descend into the mother's womb, would mind and body become constituted there? No, Venerable Sir. Or if consciousness, having descended into the mother's womb, were to it turn aside from there, would mind and body be produced in its present life? No, Venerable Sir. And if consciousness of one yet young, boy or girl, were cut off, would the mind and body come to growth, development, and maturity? No, Venerable Sir. Therefore, Ananta, just this, namely consciousness, is the cause, ground, origin, conditioned of mind and body. This is cited in the Mahanidana Sutra, Dika Nikaya, Volume 2, 63. Sensory contact. This passage shows that contact, basa, is not bare meaning of sense and its object, but also involves consciousness, conscious registration. Hence, its nature is that of sensory simulation, or the impingement of sense object on the mind. A passage at the Dika Nikaya, Volume 2, 62, explains that contact has two aspects to it. Destination contact depends on naming mind, and is the contact resulting from hearing meaningful words or from meaning associated with other objects. Resistant contacts depends on material form and direct contact of the external material world and the physical senses. I consciousness and your references arise conditioned by I. Visual forms, the meaning of the three is contact. From contact as condition is feeling. Then parallel statements for the other sense channels are given. This is cited in the Loka Sutra Samyukaya, Volume 2, 73. Responses to feeling. While one cannot help what feeling initially arises from sensing something, the extent of craving, the type of accompanying feeling in response to them is modifiable. People make feeling very seriously, thirsting for the pleasant, trying to push away the unpleasant, and having an attitude of indifference or confusion towards the neutral. When one is touched by pleasant feeling, if one delights in it, welcomes it, remains holding on to it, then the underlying tendency to attachment lies within one. When one is touched by painful feeling, if one is sorrows, grieves, laments, weeps, beating one's chest and becomes distraught, then the underlying tendency to aversion lies within one. When one is touched by neither pain nor pleasant feeling, if one does not understand it as it really is, the origination, the disappearance, the gratification, the danger, and the transcending in regard to that feeling, then the underlying tendency to ignorance lies within one. This is cited from the Chakchaka Sutra, Majjhima Nikaya, Volume 3, 285. The nature of the way of being. This passage explains that there are three kinds, ways of beings, of forms of identity, which relate respectively to the realm of sensual desire, kama guna, in which most kinds of beings live, and the elemental form and formless realms, which are both groups of heaven, and the meditative states, which leads to samsara vata, rebirth in them. These are three ways of being that acting on their leading towards certain kinds of rebirths. They say, way of being, way of being. In what way, Venerable Sir, is there a way of being? Ananta. If there were no karma to ripen in the realm of sensual desire, would there be known the sensually desiring way of being? Surely not, Venerable Sir. Thus, Ananta, for beings fettered by craving and hindered by ignorance with karma, the field, consciousness, the seed, craving the moisture, consciousness is supported in an inferior realm. Thus, Ananta, there is a way to being. This then is repeated for the form and the formless realms, the way of being, which is respectively a middling as a superior realm. This is cited in the Bhava Sutra, Anguttara Nikaya, Volume 1, 223. One sees the Dharma and seeing dependent arising. This passage shows how central the teaching of dependent arising, Patisamupata, is, and as it to see it with insight, to see the Dhamma, the basic pattern of reality within the overall basic pattern that is Dhamma. Specific patterns flow into and nurture each other in complex but set regular patterns. They do not exist on their own, but arise in specific ways from particular clusters of dhammas which sustains them. The passage also shows the connections of the doctrine to the Four Noble Truths of the Noble Ones. Now, this has been said by the Blessed One, who sees dependent arising, sees the Dhamma. Who sees the Dhamma, sees dependent arising. These five grass-stack categories of existence are dependently arisen. The desire for, settling on, inclination towards, the holding on these five grass-stack categories are the origins of the painful. The removal of desire and attachment, the abandonment of desire and attachment for these grass-stack categories in the cessation of the painful. This is cited in the Hatipatopama Sutra, Majjhima Nikaya. Dependent arising as profound. This passage emphasizes the profound and hard to see the nature of the subject of this teaching. After sitting down, Ananta said to Blessed One, "It is amazing, sir, it's wonderful, sir, how profound this dependent arising is and how profound it appears to be. Yet to me it seems to be very clear." Don't say so, Ananta. Don't say so. Profound is the dependent arising, and profound it appears to be. It is because of not understanding and not penetrating this teaching that this generation is like a tangled skein, a knotted ball of string, like matted rushes and reeds, and does not go beyond the woeful state, but a bad destiny and the abyss, the wandering cycle. This is cited in the Mahanidana Sutra, Dika Nikaya, Volume 2, 55. I'm going to stop off there today on this brief reading on Chapter 9 of Wisdom from the Theravada perspective, as we pick up tomorrow or on the next one on dependent arising as ongoing regularity discovered by the Buddha. A brief reading from the Common Buddhist Text, Guidance and Insight from the Buddha. Chief editor of this compilation is Maha Dr. Dhamma Kosachan.